Three, two. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Tee Off Podcast. My name is David Smith, and I am joined by the one and only Super Jake. Hello. Nice to see you. This is our very first podcast, so welcome. Thank you guys for being here. This is a place where we're going to share some life stories. We're going to laugh a lot. We're going to uncover some moments that might just change how you and we see the world, which is really cool. Whether you're a longtime friend, first-time caller, long-time listener, whatever it is the phrase is, thank you guys for being here, for supporting the podcast. And then today we're going to talk about why the podcast exists. This has been something that has been on Super Jake's heart for a long time. So we are going to do that for sure. And so I'm going to kick it over to Jake. Why don't you tell us a bit about your origin story?
Well, kind of started with, for one, my YouTube channel. I was like, when we start doing YouTube channel, like this could be awesome. And then a couple months go and years go by, I get this one video that I had a friend do editing on for soccer. And it's a 10-second video of me filming a highlight on the switchback soccer in down Colorado Springs. And right now, probably now in about 10, 20 minutes, I hit 666,000 views and over 10,000 plus likes on my YouTube channel.
I love that.
It's a spark. It's about sparking things in life,
Yeah, for sure. I know we've talked about this for a while, and so it's fun to actually finally sit down and get to do it. And I know that this is particularly passionate about for you because of why you created Super Jake Life on your YouTube channel. It was this idea that we want to create experiences for people that may never have had that experience. And so I'm really excited to talk about it. And you've mentioned it before that your core belief really is that everyone has a story, and that story can be used to teach, inspire, to build connection, which I think is why you and I are so close. It's why you and all the group around you that you spend time with, that they're so close. It's because this is just something that's always been a really near and dear thing for you.
100%, but just take the opportunities to get what you need to do and just have 100% faith about what you're going to do. When it's for everybody, from your mom to your grandma to your golf professional, to your poker player, to a concert goer, you never know how much one single conversation or story or anything that you do in your life can totally change a person's perspective on what they may be going through, how they can get through it. And that's part of who I am. That's part of why we, as Bash Brothers, get together and do have so much fun. I can do anything without Mr. David Smith here. I mean, he's always a great encourager. He's always made me feel like I can do anything above and beyond, but it's just about getting that thing I call confidence. What does confidence look like to me? Confidence looks like doing this. You don't know what's going to happen, but it's taking that one little step to going forward to doing something that you really want to do. You're just so shitty scared. You can't run and enjoy just be yourself. It's like hitting that one golf shot is like, I hope this makes the fairway. I hope it makes the fairway. I hope it does not go to that freaking lake. And it's like that one thought in your head. It's like, please go straight. Please go straight. I bet you've had some of those moments, David, haven't you?
Yeah, definitely. I know you do this great job when you're talking about life in general, where you create an analogy, and that is exactly what we just saw there. But that's absolutely true. I think it's very easy to think when you're going through, in particular, really difficult times. It's tough to remember that you're not the only one doing that. And you're not the only one that's experienced some version of the struggle that you're going through. And that can feel isolating when you forget that. You can shut yourself off. You can not want to reach out or connect with people because you think, man, they're just never going to understand. They've never been through this. And maybe that is true, but reaching out, connecting with people, building those relationships and friendships, and in some ways kind of being vulnerable is really important to being able to get through those things. We're not designed to do life alone, which is why I really like the Super Jake and friends type mentality that you've been fostering, which is really cool.
Thank you for saying that. One of the stories that I've thought of was, how you said you mentioned friends, right? And I have friends in high places, friends in Colorado that are head professionals at a golf course. There's a specific golf course I was just thinking about just now, called Red Sky Golf Club. It's in Walcott, Colorado, and it is freaking sweet. There's 2 courses, there's 36 holes. There's a private course and a resort course. The course that we played was the normal course, and that thing can eat you alive. Nobody visits, there's hills,
Can't do
bunkers, and everything in between. But it could not have been done without my friend Nathan Reed. You know, you gotta start with just asking, "Hey, can I come up and go play golf with you?" But the thing is that that ride up the golf course was so perfect in our lives. We didn't even realize it back then. I mean, that was awesome. I played like crazy. I'm like, what? I hit a ball, then I hit a ball straight, then I hit the ball bunker, then I hit a perfect shot. I kind of like life. You got your good shots from your bad shots, you got good shots from great shots, and it's about picking the lines that you need to do. And one of the best ways that we ended that trip was going to one of my favorite restaurants. Well, he's never been to the Mint. It's like if you go down to it's in Silverthorne, and it's like kind of like you're going between the up building. It's the smallest building in the whole town, and it's been there since 1800s. It's the second oldest restaurant in the state of Colorado. And it's just been kind of a family tradition of mine that.
yeah. I really enjoyed that whole experience, and that does kind of tie into the purpose of your YouTube channel. The purpose of the podcast is to create those new experiences, which is really cool. And if you guys ever get a chance to play Red Sky, do it. It is the most gorgeous course ever. They take insanely good care of you. We're also not sponsored by Red Sky yet, but hopefully that will be a thing. If anybody from Red Sky is watching, reach out, please. But it was an incredible experience, but it goes to the point of the whole thing, which is let's create this channel that might open up opportunities that people would never have anywhere else. And I really do like that. And I feel like I'm very blessed to be a part of this, the podcast, because this is something that I have wanted to try to dabble in at least for a little while. I watch a lot of podcasts and it's like jumping into a play for something that you've watched 100 times, but you've never actually practiced for, right? So
Oh yeah.
it's a little different, feels a little bit awkward sometimes. It's not going to be perfect, but we're going to get there. But I really appreciate the opportunity to sit down and do this experience with you because it's another feather in the cap of what Super Jake life is supposed to be about, which is creating those new experiences, which I really like.
100% true. It's about, I will throw a story that nobody knows except for me. And I can share the whole word world thing. There is a thing that happened to me about this last October. You're talking about slowdown, right? I had to have the worst slowdown in my entire life. And it's kind of still affects me a little bit today. It's my love Achilles tendon. When we slow down in life, we just don't get to realize what we get to value and how we value friendships and family and where our hope is. My hope is in Christ. It's always been that way. It's never been that way since I was little, and that's where I value. There's going to be people on here that may not value Christianity, but I want them to be open. I want them to have conversations. I want them to feel extremely welcome in my friend. I mean, no matter where you come from, no matter where you're going, you're always welcome. You're always welcome in this podcast or wherever, or any questions that you guys have. That's kind of I've always been. That's kind of who and how we built this thing to be.
Very true. I know, just to touch on what the core principles of really what the focus of this is going to be. This is the intro, just kind of outlining what it's going to look like a little trial and error for us as well. But the core principles for this podcast are that we're never going to be pushing people down. That's huge, right? This is a space of encouragement. This is a place to be uplifted. I guarantee at some point we're going to have some really tough, really deep, hurtful conversations, not hurtful towards each other, but just like this is something that has been very
Yeah,
turning in our life.
yeah. So I'll second that. It's like when you think about hurtful conversations, they can do one or two things. They can plant the right seeds in the right time. And if they're watered correctly, they will grow where they need to grow versus in being concrete or sand. It's got to be the right environment, and it's like right now, it's the right environment for me to start this. I don't know why. I don't know how. Today's an important day. It's just taking that leap of faith where you don't know where it's going to go.
Yep. But just making that step, it's going to happen.
Yeah,
We'll figure it out.
exactly.
I think And a lot of times the analogy is like you're stepping out into the darkness and you have a lamp, but the only thing you can see is the next step.
Oh, 100%.
Take it, and then you get to see the next step
Oh,
after
yeah.
that.
I'm gonna kinda throw something out there. We both thought, I can only see Imagine 2. It's a great movie, but comes a point in that movie where, um I won't spoil the whole movie, but there's a writer in that movie that changes Art Miller's perspective on life, and there's other health issues that he and his family had to walk through that had to get to where he was at the end of the movie. And that's kinda what we're doing here. It's kinda getting through the challenges of life that we walk through daily, big or small, inconvenient or not convenient, it's about just getting those things done, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I can only imagine too, again, not sponsored by the movie at all, but it's a phenomenal movie. I would definitely recommend it if you're at all fans of Mercy Me or just a really well told, heartfelt story.
Yeah.
Uh, it must have been really hot in that theater because my eyes were sweating the whole last half of it. It was crazy.
Yeah.
But definitely a good one, and it kind of fits exactly with what we were talking about. Is like we want this to be an inspiration for people to come to have a lot of positivity, to maybe hear some tough discussions about hard things people are going through, and that there's still hope on the other side of that. And hopefully, some really cool experiences, some really fun adventures that'll happen that are tied with the YouTube channel that this is connected to, which I think is really
Oh, it's gonna be, you know, one of the things that I'm gonna challenge myself on this podcast is to be raw, real raw. Because sometimes being raw, being open, but not being too open is valuable to everybody because then you'll get to know who's behind the YouTube channel. Even though you may see my swing, I look like maybe like a comedian swinger that plays golf, but it's about the God given swing that God gave me to be so I can help other people. One of the things that we will talk about eventually is what kind of huge goals I'm gonna be doing with the PGA golf situation that I'm looking at doing it. I have some huge dreams with that, and I kinda think this is gonna be a huge step toward that because, um, one of the things that I wanna just say to everybody is never know when that planted field is gonna sprout up and be ready. It's like and the thing that was in my head just in the last 2 weeks was, "You better get ready for 2027." Better get ready. There's been a lot of things in delays in my life that are saying, "Why now? Why not? Why not? Why not back then?" Because number one, I was not ready. B, I was dealing with things in my life, injuries, healing, medical complications on things. But it's about being ready for that field to harvest when it needs to be ready. You know?
yeah, and that's such an apt metaphor. It can be really tough sometimes. We've both been through these seasons. I think you're kind of in one now where it's like there's an element of change that you feel is necessary, but is also coming. But we don't get to choose when the harvest is ready to tie into this analogy. Like God's timing is the timing that matters the most. And we need to be okay with it. That's the whole story of the song. Going through the fire, I'm going through the storm. And even if God doesn't heal those things or change those things the way I expected, even still, he is my entire hope and my trust. And that's something that's beautiful. It's very tough, though, to sit in those storms and to not question and not be like, listen, I thought you were going to show up, God. And then you look back, we get to 27 and you look back at 26 and you go, wow, God showed up in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Like he was laying this path for me throughout this entire year. And now that I'm here and I look back, I can see it. But when you're going through it, it's really tough to see those things, which is why I think it's so critical to sit down with friends that you trust and to talk through those things.
Well, 100%. I mean, would you have any, like, anecdotes that might just for the audience to know a little bit more about who you are, and kind of how you got to know me?
Yeah, we should have done this at the beginning, but let's get into it. So Super Jake and I, we both worked at the same location for Top Golf. Really awesome experience. I loved the team that I worked with. And I was there for about 3 years. Jake and I worked together for about 2 of those years.
Pretty handle.
And we just connected working one day and ended up talking. We found out that we share similar faith, that we
Yeah.
really love golf. Obviously, working at Top Golf, big surprise there.
Yeah.
But it didn't take very long before we were like, "Hey, let's grab lunch and talk let's take this offline.
Yeah,
Let's go to a restaurant, just kinda hang out," and
leave that restaurant.
yeah, the very first time.
Yeah, that's just
Oh my god. Again, not sponsored by Chewy's, but if you're looking for anybody, Chewy's, hit us up 'cause
yeah.
I will talk about how great your restaurant is. But ever since then, it's been lunches and dinners, movies,
Yep.
just hanging out, playing golf. And so it's been an incredible journey to get to know Super Jake as well as I have. And I feel like we both get to play the role of encourager and sounding board and also a little bit of like a sharpening tool.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
Kinda like you're kinda refreshing the iron sharpens iron,
yes,
you know,
exactly.
in the Bible, you know, and it's you gotta look at the perspective of when you sharpening in one area, another person may be sharpening in that other area, you know, it's about it's that refiner it's going through that fire. You know, that's another thing bringing up from the movie is you have to go through that fire with God to get to where you need to go. And sometimes it's a lot of bumpy roads, a lot of unanswered questions. You know, the best musician I know has a quote that says, "Unanswered prayers by God Brooks." You know, sometimes God knows how to answer prayers when we don't even know where they're going to be coming from. You know, even if it's yes, no, and maybe. Sometimes the no's are hard. You know, throw in a no that just happened recently. I was supposed to start working for Southwest just this last week, but it looked good on paper, but I need to wisdom. I need wisdom from my friends, my family, you know, and sometimes it's not yet. And that's really freaking hard, you know, and sometimes it's not now. Like, okay, I mean, not yet and not now are kind of similar, but they could only totally mean two different things in the way of fate. You know, it's not yet is down the road, not now is like right now. You know, it's like he knows the path that you're headed to. It's about where your whole house is stayed and how you bury your treasure up. You know, I want to bury my treasure up in heaven, not here on earth, because that's gonna be floating away, you know, and about life, you know, when you're looking, you know, one of my favorite Bible verses, he talked about Matthew 6:33 and 34, you know, talking about don't worry about tomorrow, tomorrow will worry about itself, you know, and each day has its own troubles, you know. He talks about how birds in the air have things that he always supplies, you know, manna for the day. No, it's about having that one encouraging conversation or text from a friend. You know, that 2, 3-minute conversation with friends really change your mentally perspective, you know, I mean, it's changed mine. It's that's why I talk to this dude over here, Mr. Smith, almost constantly, you know? And it's because he's brought so much joy in the hard times, and he's always gonna be there, and I'm always gonna be there for him no matter what, you know? That will never change because God always pinpoints who you need for your life for life. You know, there's always a saying I've learned. It's like it could be their season, lifetime, and just for just you know, you never know how long it's going to be. But the thing that I will come to that goal is you got to be extremely grateful, extremely open-handed with what God's going to do. Like that's how I'm going to be with this podcast. You never know when lightning's going to strike, right, David?
It's very true. I know it's never easy. We talk a lot about iron sharpens iron. We
Mhm.
talk about this concept of wisdom, and we never know all it is that we need to know about everything, right? Unless you're a teenager. If you're a teenager, you're correct, you know everything. That's fine. But us adults have grown out of that wisdom into the wisdom of knowing that we don't know everything. And I think that that's a beautiful thing to realize and to recognize that you have people in your life that you can allow yourself to be sharpened by. That you can ask for feedback and get that really honest truth. I was just talking with a friend of mine yesterday about the concept of having someone in your corner that can tell you no, or that can tell you that you're being dumb or you're pursuing something that you shouldn't because they've built that trust in that relationship where maybe this is a thing that you really like, that you want to pursue. It seems to be everything that you've been asking for in prayer, but you have somebody that you know and you trust implicitly that recognizes some danger signs that you've been looking past, that can kind of help you take those rose-colored glasses off and keep you on the straight and narrow.
So what you're saying is there's like you're looking for caution flags, red flags, right?
Well, that's what sometimes it's tough to see just on your own. and having people in your corner that can point them out to say, "Hey, have you considered this?" I think it's the best way to avoid pitfalls in life that should be avoidable. I mean, there are lessons, you're gonna learn them, right?
Oh, yeah,
Sometimes
for sure. Yeah.
sometimes it's the analogy of, like, sometimes if you tell the kid 3 times not to touch the hot stove and they're still trying, alright, maybe it's time to learn this lesson the hard way.
Oh, yeah.
But how many times can we be appreciative of the fact that we've missed that hard lesson moment because we've had people that will speak wisdom into
Oh,
us?
100%. I was thinking back, we talked about hard lessons. I wouldn't be here without the hard lessons that David had talked to me when we were driving to F1 and he's trying to understand me a little bit better. And that was probably one of the best turning points of our friendship because he kind of asked the right question when he needed to ask it. And I think I'm so honestly freaking grateful for that because sometimes you just don't know how a one simple question of in the right environment, in the right soil can change a person's life, you know?
Mm.
And I would love it if you want to go off and just kind of go off on that a little bit if you like to.
Yeah, you talked a little bit about, reaping or, like, planting seeds,
Yes.
and there's an element of, like, sometimes that's our role, is we get to be the seed planters. We get to kind of put that little nugget of wisdom in there, let it take root, hopefully, but we won't get to be the ones to reap that. That's gonna be a lesson down the road, let it grow and mature and see through experience or through trauma sometimes things that are really difficult. Then you realize like, oh, this seed that was planted a while ago has finally bore fruit. And wherever that person ends up being, they're going to have that there. And that I think is tough for me sometimes when we're having discussions and we're planting seeds and I'm trying to be encouraging or uplifting or challenging even in some instances. And then you go talk to somebody else that does the exact same thing, and they're like and then you're like, "Oh, yeah, it finally clicked." Oh, yeah, oh, man, I
Christian woman who had some of the same parallels that are awesome. And it's like you're getting hit on the head with a baseball bat or a golf club. I think you're finally getting it. It's so cool for me to see that. One of the coolest things is like I'm learning how to have the best kind of communication pop. Honestly, you just never know what's gonna happen. It's about taking that one thing at a time. It's just
Yeah, and I really like that I don't have to be the person that is there for the revelation, the realization, and honestly, it's really nice to know that there's someone else out there who's paralleling some of these things that we talk about. Because even if I'm crazy, at least I'm not the only crazy one. There's at least one other crazy person out there saying the same thing, and that's encouraging to me because I don't know everything. Sometimes I wanna act like it, but I don't know
yeah,
everything, and so a lot of times it's us kind of blindly crashing around with like, well, what do we think is the next best step? Like, hey, where are we going to do our very first episode of the podcast? I've got a studio at the apartment. Let's check that out, see if that works.
yeah, exactly.
And so it's just kind of go with the flow sometimes, but it's really awesome to know that some of the things that we've talked about, in particular, some of the harder things, that there are other people out there that are saying similar things that is reinforcing what I would consider to be the wisdom in those
Oh,
things, which is nice.
100%. It's about you got to think about taking your opportunities when you get them. Sometimes you got to take those opportunities and you got to go run with them, even though you don't know where they're going. Because sometimes you got to finish that race well. Finishing the race well to me looks like finishing this first episode. That's one race out of millions more races that I have to do, many more conversations. We don't know honestly how much time we have left. We got to take this one conversation, share with the world. And if I could change one person's life to see Jesus, even though I bring up Jesus a lot, you're always welcome here. And if I could change that one person's life, and I don't know your name or age or what you look like, I don't need to care, but I care that you got touched. And that's the thing. That's why I did this. And that's why I have my other batch brother, Mr. Smith, taking the help on this as a host and going to be the main host of it because I believe in him and what he can do because he has such a strong ability to do what he needs to do and do it well. And that's I have so much trust in what his God given abilities are in everything that he does in his life, and he does it so uniquely well in such a small batch in such a small time that could change people's lives too. Even his conversations with people can change people's lives because of the joy that he brings to other people. You know, whether it's just a great listening ear to a opportunity that could just go down to the gas station or to the people he works with. You know, it's just about he just builds people's relationships absolutely, and that's kind of what I always envisioned me being like that because I want to build my relationships well. And you know, that's hard sometimes when you're uniquely built by God in ways that you don't even know why they're there, but there are reasons for there, and you'll find out later about overcoming the challenges that you have in life, and you just make them basically feel like you can do it all with God behind you, you know, and just making sure that He gets all the credit where credit's due, and I'm giving him 100% all the credit where he's doing this whole thing today.
Well, I feel like we have talked about this podcast, the reason for it,
Yep.
foundation, kind of the motivation for it. Any final thoughts before we wrap it up?
One of the things you don't want to forget is please subscribe to Super Jake Life. I'm on TikTok, which I'm not going to be a whole lot on. But I'll be on YouTube and RSS feed with I don't know the site just yet.
Let's plug it in the chat.
Yep, plug in the chat. I will be definitely YouTube for sure. And there might be some other unique opportunities come down the road for media. And I'll be posting this link on my Facebook page. We'll see what happens. And I'm so excited to be part of this and to see how many seeds are planted and see where the water goes and see what opportunities come out of this. There's two quotes I come up with and I'll end on this. Smiles go miles, and I do nothing. God does nothing impossible through me. You know, I mean, that's kind of how I'm going to end on this. I thank you for the opportunity to be a host today, and you know, come and check us out for the episode 2. I think we're going to have some really cool things, some special co-hosts with me, and we'll see what happens.
And for anybody out there listening, this is the Tee Off Podcast. But if you have questions, comments, if you have topics that you'd like us to cover, please just throw those in the chat. You can message him via YouTube. My name's David. I don't have any relevant media out there yet, but I have also considered starting my own podcast that would kind of support this one. I would really want them to work in conjunction together, but talk about maybe a little bit different stuff. I really get passionate and fired up about the politics and what's happening all over the place. I know it's not relevant for everybody, but it is a big talking point these days. So as we get that rolling, we'll hear more about that in the future. But I think that's about it.
Yeah.
Thank you guys for joining us on the Tee Up Podcast today, and we will see you next
Next
time.
time.
I think it was good.
If I would have played that, I would have